Today we recognize the passing of El Jefe, Fidel Castro, the leader of the Cuban Revolution, at 90 years old. As of this recording, the exact cause of his death has not yet been recorded, but it is largely suspected to be a case of cancer, considering that he did previously have colorectal cancer in the past. Fidel Castro has served as a shining example of what can be accomplished in socialism across the third world, even with the ability to stand up to the world's largest tyrant in history, the United States. Despite every attempt to sabotage the government through covert means, overt means, even invasion through the Bay of Pigs incident, Cuba has continued to flourish and continue to make leaps and bounds in the scientific community despite every hardship thrown at them by the imperialists. When once he was asked about how history would remember him, he said, "History will absolve me." That we will see very soon. Even Castro himself said that he would not live to see the end of the first term of U.S. President Barack Obama. Thankfully, he did. He lived to see almost the near end of his second term. As to be expected, many of the gusanos in Miami are celebrating his death in some kind of very sick, macabre celebration. Celebrating the death of the man who brought the island nation its independence, its own self-respect, not at the behest or the whims of whatever it is U.S. Capitol would choose. What the streets showed was a macabre dance of the sons and daughters of the compradors, those who allied with the imperialists to suppress the Cuban people, to force them into the most backward of conditions that could be found in Latin America. Their rigid adherence to the suppression of their own people speaks volumes about what kind of people they are and what they truly see as freedom. Even in the darkest of times, especially upon the Escambray Mountains, during the actual revolution itself, Castro held his men together and eventually led to victory over the US-backed dictator Batista. And one of the things that made Castro so great was the fact that he very often fought on the front lines with his own men. He put his own life on the line. Today's leaders cannot say that. They cannot say that they fought on the front lines for the liberation of their own country, and not in a very phony way, as many past historical Western figures like George Washington. Literally, the front line getting shot at by the enemy, not in some kind of privileged position, although that did come later on once the army grew. Fidel Castro had the courage to fight as one of the regular soldiers, as a citizen of Cuba, and demonstrated selflessness. Because when land reform came, the first land appropriated from the bourgeoisie was his own family's land, distributed to the people who worked on it. Fidel Castro has served as an example of what a very small island nation can do when they put their minds and their ingenuity and their strength to it. Cuba deserves its independence and deserves its own respect and strength. And this is something we see under threat right now. It is sad to see Comrade Castro die, but we must keep in mind that he was 90 years old and very probably ill. He did live a long and meaningful life, a life more meaningful than about 90%, 99% of people who ever live. To you, we hail you, Comrade Castro, and the accomplishments that you've made, and the wonderful life that you've lived to create the freedom and prosperity of your own Cuban people out from under the boot of U.S. imperialism. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.